can, so I'll update that. The biggest issue really, probably a lot of people, is around social media and making sure that if we are starting to use social media to contact young players, potentially even recruit young players, we need to make sure that we do it with the right protocols. The ECB haven't actually released it themselves. I've sent them our stuff, and they say they're very happy with that, which is fine. But again, obviously, we want to make sure that we use social media well to make sure we do keep in contact with kids. We don't lose kids over this period, and we do engage them. I can certainly recommend a number of clubs that have good practice. Probably the best one is Upminster. And Upminster really seem to have put it together. They've had sessions, Zoom sessions with 140 plus kids involved. Together with them, I've put some notes together, which is a sort of a checklist to make sure that if we are using Zoom, and Zoom, I think this seems to be the platform of choice. Obviously, some really strengths. What I've said, though, is certain things, and I'll just go through the 9 points, really. If anybody wants to come back at any stage, just get me to clarify. So first point is about recurring sessions. Obviously, one of the good things that we can schedule weekly sessions. What they're doing is different groups. So the girls groups, the boys groups, different age group squads have all got a different meeting ID, a different password for each group. The passwords go out to the parents via the club's WhatsApp group or club's website or however, but the passwords only go out to the parents. What I've suggested in this, because there's no examples of best practice, is that those passwords last for 4 weeks and then they're changed. Just in case anybody does get any access to passwords or it's passed on, then we change the password every 4 weeks. I'll give a bit of time to log on securely and people to understand how the system works. As people have used it and as it worked today, the name comes up in the waiting room. I was able to click on each one of them. The issue that did come, I mentioned earlier that sometimes people's names come up differently in terms of the way your phone is set up, the way you log on. What I've said to clubs, if somebody comes up with iPhone XS or whatever, they shouldn't be admitted. It should be somebody's name so that that can be logged on and identified. So any just generic name will not be admitted. The sessions are recorded. Again, on the bottom of that, we're recording this one, but there's a little icon there to record the session. That session is managed by a manager who will stay online all the time. The coach, whoever's working with the kids, won't have the issues about keep coming back. I mean, they'll have their mobile phone, they'll be using that, but they won't be responsible for admitting any things. So in a way, the manager is doing Arfan's role as he's doing today, monitoring the chat box, monitoring who's in and out, possibly a number to call. And the last point really is that if anybody is behaving inappropriately, either comments, gestures, or whatever else, they're excluded. And finally, I will read this one out because I think this is the important bit. Please note, this is a note that goes out to everybody. Please note that all activities and exercises in this online session will be as ECB safeguard and coach education best practice. We would expect parents and carers to ensure that their children are supervised throughout the session and ensure a safe environment for all activities. I think we need to make sure that any thoughts, comments, suggestions at all from anybody about online Zoom meetings?
Can I just ask why we're recording it?
I guess in a sense, it's because if anything is alleged inappropriately, then we've got some record of what's been said. It's a fail-safe for us, I think, in the way that we've actually got a record, because in a sense, if something is said inappropriately and we exclude them and they subsequently say, I didn't say that, or I was only joking, then it's tricky, I think. But also, I guess
my question is, where do we store that and where do we legally stand in terms of videoing and GDPR and Where's that video then being stored?
I think, in a sense, it's a great question, because this is the sort of thing as we're making up as we go along, almost, because there's nothing written down. I think if we said we store it for the length of that password, 4 weeks, and then when we generate a new meeting, we then say, right, we're going to wipe out our recordings, because if there's no issue that's come up, and we just wipe it off our discs, and it's just the one person, so the manager records it, and then if there's any issue, if there's an issue, they can come back to me on it with some sort of proof. If it's not, we'll just wipe it off and tell people that we will wipe it off.
I'll quickly just jump in, Phil. Just again, as Phil said, it's kind of learning on the go. But Upminster, what they've done is they've got their Zoom account set up from the club, so it's owned by the club, and it's the club welfare officer who's behind the recording and storage on the club's on the club's cloud. So in effect, they're following their own safeguarding policies around data and stuff like that. So that's how they police and manage the process.
Yeah, I've just seen Andrew's question that's come up. Thanks, Andrew. I think one of the things that we get from this today is somebody just mute that mic. Some kids in the background. Somebody's got a child in the background. Yeah, mute the mic, not the child. Thank you. Sorry, just to take Andrew's point, I think one of the nice things that this Zoom meeting achieves is this sense of being part of a group, part of collective responsibility. So we maintain all those good things we have when the youth groups get together at our clubs in the evenings. And you get this wonderful sort of series of photos across the pictures where people are starting to communicate across as you are. So I'm prepared to sort of take advice on that thing. But the one thing we've actually said all along, that the bit I said at the end of last sentence, we would expect parents and carers to ensure that their children are supervised throughout the session and ensure a safe environment for all activities. I would say that if we're insisting that if we've got any concerns that parents are not around or not easily available, then that does become a concern. But as long as we've said to parents that they should be the ones who are checking in, I think it works quite well from that point of view. Any other thoughts, Andrew?
Phil, just jumping in there in terms of club mark accredited clubs and things like that, in terms of it's very likely that they're going to have a photography or video policy.
Yeah.
That would, in theory, could the Zoom stuff actually fall under that if there was an amendment to it or something like that, in terms of, because from a coach's point of view, if you're doing video analysis on a player, it's almost the same thing in terms of taking up the point of where it's stored and everything. As long as it's stored in the appropriate place, then it would be the same thing.
It's a good point, Ben. Thank you for that. I think if we actually add, we're adding it to all the time, and just say to people, the manager has to be DBS checked and be accredited, and uses their own machine, and will undertake to discard all recordings. I think we're in a comfortable position because the parents, we're saying the parents are there all the time. And as I said, I think that's one thing that needs to possibly be emphasised. I'll put a note about that. Parents must view online and give them an opt-out. So in a sense, actually that's going to do best. Because obviously parents can mute the video. So if any parent wishes to have their video, please, feel free to mute it. So if we add that to a parental instruction, then the parents are making that choice. Do they want their kids on in part of that? If they want it muted, well, just suggest them they mute their video. I think that should cover it. That's a good point. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Andrew. Anything else about?
Yeah, Phil, yeah, just from me. I've been looking into this with my other hat on.
Yeah.
The NSPCC and Child Protection and Sport Unit suggests that the parent or carer, whoever, is visible in the screen at all times. Not just supervising, but actually visible to the coach or who's leading it. I spoke to a lady from the NSPCC today, and they're quite adamant on that. And going on to Ben's point, you've already Zoom comes under video permissions, So if you've got that and you've got a good policy in place for your video, you're fine. But yeah, they emphasise, and they're actually pushing it a bit. They're saying under 18s at the moment,
Yeah.
because the chances of grooming are massive. That just I picked that from NSPCC today.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that they haven't done yet, but I think we've again, between Atlas and ourselves, has said that we're going to change the password regularly so that we don't actually have this idea that once if the passwords are shared around, that gives them access. So I think we keep adding to the checklist to make sure we take account of all that. As I say, the ECB are somewhere behind getting anything like that, but certainly, as Graham said, the CPSU are there. It's a branch of the NSPCC, as we talked before. So by all means, yeah, we'll update that. So I'll circulate that around.
Helen wants to come in.
Just to come in on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have two sons, and one's 17 and a half, and he has his music lessons through Zoom, and one through Microsoft Teams online at the moment. Bearing in mind he's 17 and a half, these are organised by the Essex County Council Music Hub, and they insist that a parent is in the background as well, even though he's 17 and a half, and no way does he want me in his room, but they're insisting on that protocol as well. Okay, well, if that's, we'll probably need to adopt that then, the idea that we need to have physical evidence that a parent is there. That's fine. Thanks very much for that. That's really appreciated, Helen. Good.
Can I come in? Yeah. What if the coach himself is under or herself is under 18? Because there are some boys who contribute.
No, well, that can't happen. The coach is not a coach until they are 18. You can be an assistant coach, which means that you work under a level 2 coach, but you can't. People cannot call themselves a coach until they become 18. They can act as assistant. They can act with support of a level 2 at least coach who's conducting the session, but you wouldn't have a situation where an under 18 would be actually effectively leading the coaching. Good question. Thank you very much, Sunil. Yeah. Other questions?
Can I go back to DBS, Phil?
Yes, of course you can, Trevor.
Trevor Hebden. I didn't want to raise it at the time because it's probably peculiar to my club, Wanstead. When the lockdown started and I was taken off as a DBS assessor, I had a lot in the process. 2 had got to the stage where they were ready to be verified, asking me to be verified.
Yeah.
What has happened to all those that were in the process?
Drop me a note, Trevor, with their names, date of birth, email addresses. I would check to see if they're on the system. If they're on the system, then I can verify them pretty straightforward in one of these sessions. But as I say, all I need is name as they were registered, passport names, date of birth, their email address. I will see if they're on the system. There are some on the system already. As I say, it's working pretty well in terms of verification. But yeah, send me those things over, Trevor, and I'll check it out. And you can tell them they can be verified this coming Friday.
Okay, will do, Phil. Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Any other questions? Good. We have got 5 minutes left. Arfan, was there anything else from the chat box we haven't covered?
Nothing else as oh no, sorry, long one from Sajid. Apologies, Sajid. Apologies for being late. I'm sure this may have been covered. If our certificate for both Safe Hands and Welfare Officer certificate expiring this month or during the lockdown period, is our certificate still valid after the expirational date? I think it's because Sajid come on late. You actually touched on that again, Phil.
Yeah, we'll just cover that again, Sajid. If you have your Safe Hands certificate expires, then we're waiting for ECB clarification. As I said, that we will be publishing full details of this in Friday's newsletter, and all that will be out in very, very good time before there's any question about any resumption of recreational cricket. So we'll make sure that all that information is that, and that's up-to-date information from this afternoon from the ECB. So that will be clarified. Yeah.
And just one quick one. I know I've already replied to Sunil privately, but I think it's a good question. Indemnity for coaches. What's the situation with virtual Zoom coaching?
With Zoom coaching, Well, as long as they are a member of the ECBCA Coaches Association, as long as all the drills are as per, in a sense, probably I coach or in the course, then that's fine. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that when the activities should be all reasonably that you could do in a normal size or a small garden, and it wouldn't involve chasing after balls, which could leave kids tripping over things in gardens or running into fences and walls. So I think all coaches need to have a sense of proportion when it comes to the activities. But to say there's a lot of stuff in iCoach. Those people who haven't used iCoach before, it is available to either level 2 coaches or to anybody. It's literally just iCoach, ECB iCoach. If anybody particularly wants any link, by all means put them down and we can add it to the newsletter this Friday. And again, a general thing, obviously, with it, Graham's on today. There's questions about coaching. If there's other questions about that, please put them in the chat box. Drop us a line, and we'll try and cover these, cover whatever you want in these sessions. So we'll have these sessions. As I say, we'll keep it pretty tight. Each Tuesday at 4:00. By all means, just log on and listen and stay in the background, ask any questions. At the moment, I've got 3 minutes left. I know usually they extend it, but just in case it's something is busy and they cut it off. Anybody got any last points in terms of winding up?
Probably just a bit of a recap. Obviously, we've put some wording on on our weekly update, which is obviously emailed, but there's a landing page on the Essex Cricket website. If you hit the news section, I think it's 3rd or 4th, it was 1st of May when it was last updated. And that's sort of one landing page for all information or the latest information. So please do visit that page. What we will do, as Phil rightly said, is taking on quite a lot of excellent insight today. We'll adapt that accordingly to make sure it's reflective. Where we are lucky is the ECB have come to us and they're reviewing, including trying to probably watch this video at some stage on good practices, just because our clubs have been so proactive. So, many congratulations to everybody. And the way, obviously, listening into the government advice and the ECB advice, I think this is a portal that in the future will get used a bit more, so that the more learnings we get, and the safer environment we create is better. And this Friday's update, as Phil said, there'll be a letter to all via the leagues to the clubs regarding the latest CWO situation, as Phil has explained. But it's always good to get an official writing. And that's it, really.
Thanks, Arthur. And as I said, I really appreciate everybody joining, because in a sense, it's our way of saying to people that we are maintaining links with our club welfare officers. We're providing a time when people can just jump in. As I say, it's appreciate all the comments, but I also appreciate all those people who have just sat in on the session and listened to us, just to get a flavour. So we will have these each Tuesday, and I do appreciate you jumping in and just listening, so we can actually say to people we're doing what we can. And also, if there's any confusion, please come back to us about it. We just hopefully, as these sessions go on, we can build up. And as we hopefully get a date when recreational cricket can start again, we can start exchanging good practice. If you've got any ideas of good practice at your clubs, what you're doing, please share them with us. If you've got any ideas, as I say, any thoughts, let us know. If there's any particular topic you want covered, then give us a couple of days' notice and we'll make sure we do some preparation and cover that.